I'm Diana Brehab of Christ Church Dearborn.
I'm Matt Salman from Christ Church Dearborn.
I'm Kateri Boucher from St. Peter's Episcopal Church, Detroit. One of the ways that climate change has already been impacting our congregation is through our basement, which is where we serve a soup kitchen and also corner shower and a shower and laundry facility. And in the last summer and the summer before, we had totally record-breaking flooding throughout the basement in ways that were really disruptive to our services and to the folks that use those programs. So it was a really big wake-up call for all of us, and actually this summer we're getting the basement renovated in a way that will hopefully be preventative for future flooding, but we know that it's only a taste of what is coming. And related to that, we also consider many of the folks who come to our soup kitchen as part of our congregation. They also come on Sunday mornings, and I've really noticed the impacts of climate crisis on them because many of them are living out in the elements. And so this summer with some of the really hot weeks, just noticing how much more of a struggle it is for them to be able to just be surviving. And unfortunately, we don't have any air-conditioned spaces in our church right now, so it's a struggle for us to be figuring out how to provide cooling and in the winter warming spaces for people who are really, really exposed to what is going on in the climate right now.
I can echo that because we had flooding in 2019. We had 2 cases of flooding. Actually, it was due to all the water, and the city of Dearborn couldn't manage it, and we actually had sewer backup. So it wasn't fresh water, it was sewer, and we had several inches of water in our basement throughout the whole basement. So it was a tremendous amount of cleanup. Plus, we lost a lot of things because it was sewer water. We have now put in backflow preventers so that the water cannot backflow when the city has a problem again. But that's an expenditure we've never needed before. Okay, well, I'll go ahead. I was going to Matt might start, but yeah. Well, anyway, so we have an older building. A lot of places that's the common with a lot of churches. It's 75-ish years old, and we have a boiler system. We have a hot water boiler and we have a steam boiler, and we've replaced those over the years. But the infrastructure in the building is old, and so, for example, our pneumatic control system that responds to the thermostats, it requires air pressure, and there are lots of leaks. So we have a compressor running in the basement all winter long that is a lot of time leaking out along the way. So our dream is to completely obviate the system. Oh, and by the way, the system has asbestos on many of the valves and piping. So we're just dipping our toe in the water at looking at mini splits. And we're going to be putting those into our chapel and our choir room first to get our, some experience at how it works. And then we want to start putting that through the building so that possibly in a number of years we can just let all the asbestos stay in place, and we will have the most effective zoning that you can imagine, because every single room will have its ability to heat and cool as needed.
And we've tried to talk to various mechanical people to repair the system, and because of how old it is, because of the asbestos, they don't even want to touch it. And so it's like yes, we have a nice boiler, but there's really no way. There's one room, well, the choir room is one of the reasons why we're looking to do that, is because the control valve for that room has completely broken, and so our sexton has to manually turn a switch to heat it up and then stop, and then so it doesn't it's just totally crazy for him to have to deal with that. And the other thing with the mini split solution is that one of the things Diana has thought of is that it would get us away from the need for natural gas. It's like we can not have gas in the building. That's a dream to get to, but right now we're not close, but it would be great.
Okay, everything in the building is old, and we know we have natural gas leaks. In fact, that's on my to-do list to call DTE and make sure that we can get a plumber in to stop any leaks. So the leak is a small amount compared to when you burn fuel, you make CO2, and it's a greenhouse gas. But with natural gas, you've got it operating all year long, if you're hot water heaters and all that. And so it's leaking all the time, not just when you're burning fuel. And methane, the primary component of natural gas, is 28 times the greenhouse gas effectiveness of CO2. So it's if you can get rid of using, leaks of natural gas, that's a big boon for climate change. Mini splits are quite efficient. Yeah. And by the zoning, when you're not using, we have more building than we need. And so we're heating a lot of spaces that are not used.
And we have, there's other organizations that use our building, and that would also make it much more comfortable for them to be able to stay and use the building. And if they're not, using it all the time, we can work with them to, turn it down when those areas are not used.
I feel really grateful that at St. Peter's over the last decade or so, we've been just doing a lot of things, sort of chipping away at different aspects of the church building and of our community life to make it make our building more efficient, climate efficient, but also resilient to coming weather. And so one of the things, an early thing, I forget what year this happened, but within the last 10 years, we had solar panels put in on our roof, which was purchased. It was a power purchase agreement by one of our congregants, and so it was at no cost to the church and is also helping us cut back our energy bill each year, each month. And so that's been one really big thing. In the last year or two, we've had a lot of things going on, many thanks to some grants that we've recently received through Michigan Interfaith Power and Light, which is one of the organizations that's based in our church. And they do work all around the state, helping both houses of worship and other organizations be able to have access to money and resources that help them do this kind of work. So they have helped get us most recently a $100,000 grant through what's called the Sacred Spaces Clean Energy Grant. And that will allow us to put in, we're about to get a bunch of new refrigerators and freezers that will be more energy efficient, getting a bunch of new windows put in. Also, in gratitude to the Trethewey Downs, the diocesan grant funding, who's helped us with windows in the past. We just had a bunch of our light fixtures replaced to become fluorescent so that they're more energy efficient. Or wait, is that right? We went from fluorescent to LED so that they're more energy efficient. And currently we're also working with a pilot program that has been connected to us because of our proximity to the new Ford train station. We have been connected with this mobility hub there that is piloting us as a house of worship that has a EV charging station right in our parking lot. So that is going to be online in the next few weeks, and we're really excited to see how that ends up playing out with the neighborhood. We also, because of recent construction, recent build next to our church, we were able to have funding for our parking lot to be totally renovated and put in bioswales and other things that help with stormwater runoff.
So we did the same thing with the fluorescent to LED conversion. It just finished in the last 2 weeks. And one of your questions was about how this impacts our community. And we have had a couple parishioners who have come in for hours at a time to do the conversion. So we got the kits from DTE for free, but there's about a 10 to 15 minute per fixture installation time. And so we had people spend many hours. And so I think that causes them to become more into our community by that work that they've done.
Something that we talk about related to that is, in terms of making these changes in our church, we know that it's not going to actually stop climate change just to have one church putting on solar panels or changing our light fixtures. But part of, there's a quote from Ched Myers, the theologian Ched Myers, that I always come back to, which is that our personal changes in our own lives or in our own, small congregations aren't necessarily the solution to anything, but they can be the question to everything. So it's just the act of putting in a light fixture can make you think about what's going on in the world, and just the act of seeing the solar panels each day or seeing the bioswales can help keep us tuned in to the reality that is going on around us and keep us engaged, and doing a small thing that hopefully can then unfold through our lives and through our ministries.
In our congregation, we have or in our church, we have two churches. We have Christ Church Dearborn, and we also have Mother of the Savior, which is an Arabic-speaking Christian community. And a lot of the immigrants, the people at Mother of the Savior are immigrants, and I don't think there's a lot of awareness of the climate change problem. So I feel like we're a little bit of a role model in some respects. And so that's a part of our function, I think, and for doing these things. It's kind of on the same lines. It's not that we're going to change the world. It's that, you get the word out there and people, then they start thinking about it and how they can impact things.
Diane and I are on the property committee, and so, we're thinking more about that than a lot of the other people are. And so we're hopefully trying to, be a beacon for, people. Oh, yeah, we didn't think about that. We're doing it at church. Okay, that's a good idea. Well, we've just, tried to be efficient as we can. We've been using, try as we can to use multiple week bulletins so that we don't have to reprint everything every week. We have the basic bulletin, and then there's an insert for each week that's just the new stuff for this week's readings.
Not nearly as much as we should. That's a good point. Yeah. The property commission comes up with this, and we talk about it, and then we go to vestry to get the money, and and we do it. Yeah, we should do more communication. It's a great idea.
Yeah, we've tried to keep doing that more, adding things to our website, both so people in our congregation and without can see what we're doing. And our interim pastor, Susan, has been really good about putting updates on what we're doing right in the bulletin. So just in the place where we would put upcoming events, she'll just say new light fixtures going in this week, or we're getting the basement renovations beginning this week, so people are staying updated. And the other thing I was gonna say in terms of ways that we congregationally are working to address climate change is actually bringing it into the liturgy and into our preaching and the events and things that we bring to the church. So it's not just the structures of the building, but actually trying to change the ways that each of us thinks about and is relating on a spiritual and political level to what's going on. And I'm part of a large network of communities that's started by an Anglican church in British Columbia called Salal and Cedar, and they have what's called the Wild Lectionary. So every week they offer this resource. They're starting to move through the whole 3-year cycle, but a resource where preachers or other folks can look at the readings through a lens of climate and through the natural world, so that anyone that week who's preaching or leading a Bible study could look at the resource and have these ideas sparked about how to be reading the texts and the tradition through this lens, so that it doesn't feel like two separate things that we're doing, like being in church and caring about the climate and the natural world, but actually seeing how a care for creation has always been a part of this tradition. And as we've also said, the season of creation is an amazing resource to bring that in for that month of the year as well, in September. Have you guys used that regularly?
Yeah, for several years.
We've been doing Season of Creation, not necessarily those resources, but I feel like taking care of the environment is a way to show love to the whole world. I mean, you can only really interact with people on a personal level in your vicinity, but by taking care of the world will help everybody.
I mean, it isn't our faith tradition, but I was listening to a story the other day talking about, Native Americans and just the holistic approach that they take to life. And it's like everything around you is we are responsible for, we get what our previous generations gave, we're responsible to the ones that come after us, and we should not pollute anything. And so that's such an inspiring thought.
One thing that our former vestry chair, Bob Chapman, used to say, and that we have on our website, is every action that we do to promote a healthy environment is a prayer. And I really like that way of seeing the action as tied to prayer and to faith life and spirituality. And for me, I know that I have a lot of fear about what's coming, and my generation, I think, is facing just really big questions about what our lives will be like. And so being able to do small things and also to be changing our lives and our ways of living and being, like reorienting to a more holistic way of life, feels like very grounding at a time when there's a lot of fear and uncertainty. And I know that being able to do that in church community is really, it makes such a difference for me. So very connected to my own faith.
The only thing I can think is just that you don't have to do it all at once. And even if some parts of your life are not as efficient as they could be, but it's always a goal that you can look forward to and say, I want, even if I'm not here now, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road, we could be there.
yeah, I feel like trying to be a role model in the way I live my life, driving less, trying to eat sustainable foods,
Water bottle.
carrying my water bottle with me, even when it's maybe a little culturally feels a little weird to have it with me, but
Well, if I wasn't down in Dearborn already this morning, Diana would have taken the bus down here. So it's like she's trying to live the life that she's talking about. It's just I was already driving here, so I picked her up.
Thank you.
But just going to Costco and seeing the stacks and stacks and stacks of all these water bottles and people just heading out of there with, baskets full of them, and it's like, this is so wasteful.
Yeah.
And you go other places, and you realize, wow, Detroit water is delicious.
Yes. Yes. I have immigrants that live in, I have some rental properties. And when one of the couples was moving into my place, they had all these water bottles. And I thought about it for a second. I realized, well, they came from a part of the world where you couldn't drink the water, the tap water. And so with one of the families, I just took a glass and I drank right in front of them to show them that this is safe. That's a family that doesn't speak English very well. And they were shocked to hear that you could just drink tap water. And I told them, it was Samaritas, that they all came through Samaritas relocation program. And so I said, tell the people who are coming here that the water here is safe to drink out of the tap. Saves them money and saves us plastic.
Well, it reminds me of another thing that I was going to say, that I would want to say to people that are thinking about how to be adding more climate consciousness into your lives, and that we're thinking about at St. Peter's, is just the ways that climate is connected to every other issue that we already care about and that our congregations are already working on, whether that's racism or education or poverty, that like climate is totally interwoven with that. And so maybe there's ways that as part of our other ministries, we could just be adding that lens of climate and creation care, so that we don't necessarily have to be adding new things to our docket, but just doing the things we're already doing in ways that are more conscious and more thinking about that bigger picture lens.
That was a great wrap.